During the coldest winter of my lifetime, I chose to not winterize our Winnebago Ekko. Many of you have asked us about that and how that's gone. Well, I did that even though Lynn thought that was a bad idea, which put a lot of pressure on my decision. Today I'll share with you why I chose to do it this way, the steps I chose to make sure that I wasn't making a mistake, the things I bought to help me do that, and last, how did it turn out and what lessons did I learn from this? So why did I choose to not winterize the RV? Well, first, we were leaving our home to head to warmer weather in just a few weeks. Second, there's always a chance that when you winterize something like that for the first time, you're going to make a mistake. And third, we were going to have to de-winterize the RV once we made it to warmer weather, which was complicated by the fact that our first reservation was at a spot that didn't have full hookups. So my plan was to use the Truma heating system in our Ekko to keep things above freezing temperatures both inside the RV and in all the tanks and with all the water lines. In theory, this was a really good idea, but when we got our first day that got down to about 10 degrees above zero, I started to doubt my plan. And the Truma system started throwing errors. It wouldn't light. Turns out it was due to air in the lines from me refilling the propane tank so often, but that caused me to have to get up every hour to monitor it and babysit it. As part of my grand design, I purchased a few monitors to help me watch the temperatures both inside the RV and in all the bays. So even though I had the Govee single zone monitor for temperatures, I needed something that would watch the inside and the 3 different bays in the RV. So after a lot of research, I decided that the didnt 4-zone temperature monitor that connects through Wi-Fi and has an alerting system and an app would be the best thing for me to buy. The monitor itself has a sensor, and I placed it here in between the cabinet and the front area inside the RV, and we can keep an eye on what the temperatures are both inside, outside, and in all the bays. And then I took one of the sensors and I put it in the water station to make sure none of those pipes froze. I took another sensor and placed it inside the outdoor kitchen area because there were water pipes there. And the third sensor I placed in the hot water area of the Truma. One great thing too about the didnt monitoring system is I could set a high temperature and a low temperature level for each one of those sensors, and if it ever reached too hot or too cold, it would send me an email or text alert as soon as that happened, and that came in really handy to keep me from having to go outside every 15 minutes. By the way, in the description below, there's an affiliate link to each item that we use to make this happen. So that took care of letting me know the temperatures in each one of those zones and inside, but I needed something to help me know how much propane I had left, because if I ran out of propane, I was in trouble. So I purchased a Mopica LP propane monitoring system that came with 2 remote sensors that has a magnet that sticks to the bottom of each one of the tanks. It has a remote monitoring area, and even more importantly to me, it came with an app that would allow me to connect to the sensors from inside the home, and through Bluetooth I could see the percentage of propane left in each one of the tanks. And the app would let me set a minimum level, and once I reached that level, it would alert me and let me know that there was an issue. There were a few other steps that I took and a few other precautions. First, we turned the temperature inside the RV up to 60 to make sure it never got close to freezing in any of the areas. After refilling the propane tanks, I'd always go inside and light the burners and let any air that was in the line escape there. When I turned the propane tanks on, I would always twist the nozzle really slowly. Not just turning it really fast, but twist it slowly. That was a suggestion that we learned from Facebook, and someone also left us a comment and told us that, and it seemed to help a lot to keep it running without any errors. Inside the RV, I opened up all the drawers. I lifted both of the beds so the tanks would get air, and I left the door to the bathroom open so warm air could get into that area more easily. Inside of the water station bay and the outdoor garage, I made sure that those vents were open and free of any obstructions. So with all that in place, cold temperatures started coming in, and it was time to see if this was going to be successful or if I was going to have to admit that maybe I should have just gone ahead and winterized. All went well when we were in the 15 and 20 degree temperature range. But then all of a sudden, when temperatures got down to below 10 degrees, well, like I said before, the Truma started throwing air. And since I couldn't really trust that the heat was going to stay on, I woke up every hour, at the top of every hour, for 2 nights in a row and checked the monitor to see what the temperatures were. There were a few times it was okay during that first night, but most of the time during that first night, I had to get up and go outside and babysit it and troubleshoot it and restart the heater, and it was a long night for sure. And that next day, the first thing I did after drinking lots of coffee was to hop on the Ekko Wannabe and Owners Facebook group, which we love, to see if there were any suggestions of how to keep the heater running and if there was anything I should have done differently. I learned that maybe it was air in the line, and so that helped a lot. I also learned that maybe I should have gone ahead and drained the hot water heater, because that thing's made to be easily drained and filled back up, and that's one less thing for me to have to worry about. On that Facebook group, I learned that it was extremely easy to winterize that hot water heater. Just go outside, turn the water pump off, open the little yellow tab, let all the water out, and that's all you need to do. When it's time to use it again, you just reverse the process. Put the filter plug back in, close the little chute, turn the water pump back on, and it'll fill up with a little water. I wish I'd done that earlier, because it kept me from worrying about the most expensive component that could have broken or frozen during this time. So after those first 2 nights, the heater started working flawlessly, so I set my alarm to get up every 3 hours instead, and I would just reach over to the nightstand, grab my phone, and check the temperatures, and most of the time, everything was fine. What I learned is that the monitors were doing their job, the heater was staying on, and I started trusting the monitors to alert me if there were any situations I needed to be aware of. So after maybe the 4th night or so, I didn't even set an alarm. The monitor woke me up a couple of times, but most of those nights went flawlessly. And the result was, even though this was probably the coldest 5 to 10 days we've ever experienced in our lifetime, our Ekko made it through that. So we learned a lot while doing this, and those lessons allowed us to make it through the coldest winter we've ever experienced without winterizing our Ekko. A lot of the credit goes to the Ekko itself, but some of it goes to the lessons that we learned, and I thought I'd share some of those with you right now. Lesson 1, anytime we refill the propane tanks, we make sure we get all the air out of the lines. That Truma heater, it's a little sensitive. If there's any air in there, it's going to start throwing airs, and if you're depending on it to keep everything from freezing, well, do what you need to do to make sure the air is out of the line. For us, light the inside burners and let them burn until you don't see any yellow flames coming through, and then let it go for another minute or so, and it seemed to help a lot. We also learned that when propane tanks drop down below 20% of their capacity, they're not as reliable, and the Truma system seems to have a little bit of an issue with that. I learned very quickly that I should have gone on Facebook a little sooner to research those issues that might come up. Had I done that, I would have drained the hot water heater at the beginning of December and not worried about that at all. It's the most expensive component that could have failed, and it's the most vulnerable component that could have failed as well. The Truma system in the Ekko is aware that it's going to be used in a 4-season environment, and if you put it in Ekko mode and just leave it there, then it will stay good down to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. But I just didn't trust that, because replacing it would be a $2,000 to $3,000 expense, and I didn't want to go through that. Third, the monitors were a little expensive, but man, they did their job, and I'm glad I bought them. And now that we've made it through this winter stretch, it's good to have them on this trip. We can tell how much propane we have in each one of the tanks, and we can monitor the temperature in each one of those areas, and it's not as important, but it does give us a little bit of peace of mind that the things that we're putting into the garage and the outdoor kitchen are not getting up to an extreme temperature level. Another use we found for it is we don't have to use the Govee any longer to monitor the temperature for Maggie when we leave her. That monitor that's built into the base system will alert us if the temperature gets above 80 degrees inside. We know something's wrong, and we can go back and take care of our little fur baby. So that brings us to the conclusion. And you're probably asking the question that everyone has asked us: was I successful? Well, when we turned the water pump on, filled it with water, came to our first camping site, we had 0 leaks and 0 issues, and everything has worked flawlessly. So would I do it that way again? Yes, kinda. I would definitely get the monitors. I would trust the monitors because they work really well. But I would empty the hot water heater anytime the temperature got down below 35 degrees just to make sure I didn't have to worry about that since it's so expensive. We've also learned that the Winnebago Ekko really is a 4-season RV with a few things that you need to keep in mind. If you need to leave it somewhere where you can't monitor it and the temperatures are down below 25 degrees, I think I would put the pink juice in there and winterize. And you may be like Lynn and I. The way we prefer to winterize the Ekko, turn the key, point it towards warmer weather anytime the temperatures get below 40 in our hometown. But with that said, we also love to winter camp, and it makes us feel a lot more comfortable about using this RV, knowing that it can handle temperatures down into the teens without us having to do anything to it, using everything inside the way it was designed, the restrooms, the water, the heat, cooking, everything just works, and it stays warm and toasty in there. Speaking of which, we're warm and toasty now here on our trip in Florida. We hope you'll join us every Sunday for a little episode about where we are and what we're doing. And until we see you again, thanks for watching. Happy winterized tales.